Imagine you're a CEO. It's 3 in the morning, the phone rings. A hurricane just flattened your biggest factory in Florida. You're looking at a $500 million hole where your company used to be. Who do you call? It's not going to be New York. It's not going to be London. You're going to call a tiny 21 square mile rock in the middle of the Atlantic. That rock is Bermuda. And as we're about to see, it is so much more than just a tax haven.
Right. Most of us think of Bermuda and, we picture shorts and super yachts. But in reality, it's the engine room of global capitalism. The simple fact is, without this tiny island, the entire financial system as we know it would just grind to a halt. The stakes are, well, they're incredibly high. So how in the world did we get here?
It is a truly wild story. I mean, back in the 1950s, Bermuda's #1 export was onions. Fast forward to today, and it's the undisputed global capital of risk, juggling trillions of dollars. So, let's break down exactly how this small farming community managed to hack the global financial system and become its most crucial player.
Okay, so our story doesn't start in some fancy boardroom. It starts in Youngstown, Ohio back in the 1950s with an engineer and insurance broker named Fred Rice. He was looking at the books for a huge steel company and had this realization: they were paying millions of dollars for insurance they almost never, ever used. And he thought, wait a minute, why are we paying some middleman for safety that we could just provide for ourselves?
So Rice comes up with this totally radical idea. He calls it a captive insurance firm. The steel company should just start its own insurance company. The parent company pays its premiums, but it pays them to its own subsidiary. And if there are no accidents, well, the subsidiary, which, remember, they own, just keeps all that profit. It's brilliant, it's efficient, and it completely cuts out the middleman.
There was just one tiny problem. U.S. regulators absolutely hated the idea. They said, no way. But Rice didn't give up. He looked at a map and found Bermuda, an island whose famous onion economy was totally collapsing because of U.S. tariffs. He went to them and offered high finance. And Bermuda, desperate for business, offered him a simple yes. And just like that, the concept of regulatory arbitrage, basically shopping around the globe for the friendliest laws, was born.
So, fast forward to the 1980s, Bermuda's little tax workaround is about to go from being a clever trick to an absolute necessity for corporate America. See, the U.S. was in the middle of what they called a liability crisis. Juries were handing out these nuclear verdicts, these just enormous payouts for things like product liability and malpractice. And the traditional insurance companies? They ran for the hills.
With the old guard gone, big companies like Ford and Shell, they pooled their money in Bermuda and invented this piece of legal genius, the Bermuda form. Now, this is so clever. It's an insurance contract that uses familiar New York law so everyone's comfortable, but any disputes get settled by boring, math-focused arbitrators over in London. It brilliantly stripped away the unpredictable, emotional American jury system, creating the one thing big business craves more than anything: certainty.
And just as Bermuda was cementing its role in handling corporate lawsuits, Mother Nature decided to raise the stakes. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew just slammed into Florida. The cost was a staggering $27 billion. It instantly bankrupted dozens of traditional insurers who had only ever modeled for much, much smaller storms. I mean, the entire industry was basically insolvent overnight. The capital just vanished.
But a crisis for America was yet again a massive opportunity for Bermuda. A legendary group of what are called reinsurers, the class of '93, raced in to fill the void. Now, why Bermuda? One word: speed. While getting an insurance license in New York could take years, in Bermuda, you could be up and running in a matter of weeks. It was literally the only place on Earth that could absorb the billions of dollars of investor cash that was flooding in to capitalize on the chaos.
But this new class of insurers didn't just bring money. They brought nerds. And this is where Bermuda makes a huge pivot, from legal loopholes to hard science. They hired meteorologists, physicists, you name it, to build these incredibly complex computer simulations, essentially inventing the entire field of catastrophe modeling. They stopped guessing and started actually quantifying the apocalypse, turning this tiny island into the Silicon Valley of risk.
But even with all this new capital, the insurance industry alone couldn't cover a truly massive, world-ending disaster. So Bermuda asked a genius question: how do we get Wall Street's trillions to help pay for Florida's hurricanes? The answer was the catastrophe bond, or CAT bond. Basically, a giant pension fund bets on the weather. If no major hurricane hits Florida, they get a fantastic return on their money. But if a monster storm does hit, their investment is used to pay for all the damage. This literally turned acts of God into a tradable asset, and it just exploded. Today, there's something like $100 billion of this alternative capital sitting in Bermuda. And why does this matter to you? Well, without that massive pile of money, insurance rates in places like Florida or California would be, well, they'd be completely unaffordable for almost everyone.
All this created a massive global game of hot potato with risk. So you buy home insurance from your local company, right? Well, they don't want to hold all that risk, so they buy their own insurance, it's called reinsurance, from a company in Bermuda. Then that Bermuda company buys its own insurance, called retrocession, from another firm, probably right down the street. It's like turtles all the way down until the risk ultimately lands on Wall Street's balance sheet through those cat bonds. And Bermuda, it sits right at the bottom of this entire funnel.
So this system has made Bermuda incredibly wealthy. But what's it actually like for the people who live there? Well, all this global capital comes at a really steep local price, creating what residents call the two Bermudas.
Just look at the numbers. An expat CEO might be making $5 million a year, tax-free. For them, an $8 loaf of bread is, a rounding error. But for a local bus driver making $50,000 a year, that same $8 loaf of bread is absolutely crushing. The global profits being funneled through the island create this massive local inflation, which is pricing many residents right out of their own country. And here's the real trap. To pay for things like roads and schools, the government doesn't tax income. Instead, it slaps a massive customs duty on almost everything that gets imported. And on a tiny island, that's everything. This kind of regressive tax system places a huge, disproportionate burden on the local population, and it's created some really deep social tensions over the years.
Bermuda's whole model has always been about one thing: adapting to threats. So as the rest of the world started cracking down on tax havens and brand new risks emerged, well, Bermuda just started playing 4D chess again to stay ahead of the game. A perfect example: when over 130 countries agreed to a 15% global minimum tax, pundits were screaming, "This is it! This is the end of Bermuda." But instead of fighting, Bermuda did something absolutely brilliant. They just said, "Okay, fine, we'll implement a 15% tax ourselves." Now, why would they do that? Because they knew if they didn't, the US would just take that 15% anyway. By collecting the tax themselves, they get to keep all that revenue on the island. A genius pivot. And they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They're diversifying. They've become a massive hub for private equity firms that buy up old corporate pension plans. That's a $1 trillion market. And after the whole FTX collapse over in the Bahamas, Bermuda very shrewdly positioned itself as the regulated adult in the room for crypto, attracting serious players like Coinbase. So okay, Bermuda can handle hurricanes, it can handle lawsuits, but we are now entering an era of systemic risks. Risks that are so big, so correlated, that even their supercomputers basically just say error. What happens when the world breaks in a way that you just can't model? These are the threats that really keep CEOs up at night. First, a massive cyber attack, a cyber apocalypse, where everyone gets hit at once. There's no diversification for that. Second, climate change creating what they call an uninsurability cliff, where storms just become so frequent and so severe, the whole model collapses. And third, the geopolitical squeeze between the US and China, a world where Bermuda's precious neutrality just might not be an option anymore. When you really look at the whole story, you see something fascinating. Governments were just too slow, too bureaucratic to handle the biggest risks of our modern world. So the market did what the market does. It built a workaround. It built Bermuda. It's an operating system patch, a clever fix designed to absorb the shocks that our own system creates.
And that patch is way more critical than most of us realize. Seriously, if Bermuda just vanished tomorrow, you might not be able to get insurance for your home. Corporate pension funds could face a catastrophic crisis. The ships and planes that power global trade, they wouldn't be able to get coverage. We have, without really thinking about it, built a global economy that rests on this single, tiny pinpoint in the ocean. In the end, Bermuda represents this massive, high-stakes bet. It's a bet that we can use math and money to tame nature and outsmart disaster. But as any gambler knows, the house always wins. The only question is, as the world gets warmer and more volatile, who is the house? Is it the insurers in their air-conditioned offices? Or is it the storm,